Hariom everyone. We are starting this class on Nyaya. We are approaching the end of the text and we are into the final chapter, fifth chapter, part two. And this has 25 sutras. We have done the first one. So another 24 to go. So let's start with the chanting first. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Gananam Tva Ganpati Gam Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrinvanutibhi Siddh Sadhanam. Om Shri Mahaganpataye Namaha Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we are approaching the fifth chapter, part two, the second sutra. We have done the first one, where all the logical fallacies were listed. So all the nigrastan or occasion for rebuke or occasion, wherever we make a conclusion, if that conclusion has a flaw, nigraha, there is some kind of defect, that defect has, if it is exposed, then the argument is considered invalid. So pratigya hani, pratigya antaram, pratigya virod, etc. These 22 we have seen. So as you will notice, this chapter has 25 sutras only. So this is not in the format where every sutra has uh, a proposition and then that is refuted. Here, just the defect is pointed out. So this defect, when pointed out in an opponent, is considered sufficient to stop the flow of argument or stop the argument from proceeding further. So in Jati, there was a step-by-step stage where one person refuted, one person gave a proposition, second one refuted. The refutation was pointed out as a flaw. Here, the first proposition itself, or in the whole process itself, some flaw is there, then that flaw is not accepted. That flaw is said to be sufficient to negate that proposition. So this one is Pratigya Hani, the second sutra. Pratidrishtant Dharmabhya Anugya Swadrishtante Pratigya Hani. So if someone gives a argument, there you have what you call a drishtant. An example is given to prove the validity. So for that, if this other person gives an other example, another drishtant, so that is called the pratidrishtant. So pratigya hani is not the pratigya is wrong, but the drishtant is the drishtant given is not considered sufficient. So the example that is given is not considered sufficient. So in this Pratidishtant dharmabhya anugya. So someone has accepted the dishtant of the opponent, accepted its properties. The pratidishtant dharmabhya is the properties of that pratidishtant. Anugya means to go along with that, to accept it. So when you do that, what happens? Swadrishtant pratigya hani. Then your own dishtant that you gave, the own example that you gave, that is not going to stand or not be accepted as valid, and that defect or that nigrah sthan is called pratigyahani. So so now Vadi has accepted the example of the opponent, the pratidishtan. So now his own example we say is hindered, and thereby his pratigya or proposition is negated. So we take in the example also we are using the similar example of sound. So Vadi will say sound is non-eternal, Why? Because it is grasped by the senses like a pot. Distant is like a pot. So now Prativadi will say sound is eternal. He use a different. So because it is grasped by senses, he will go along with that. But he says his drishtant is, or his Prati drishtant rather is like potness, or the genus potness, the general pot, the image of a pot that we have, that thing. So that genus or pot is there, that exists in all the pots. So one pot is one pot, and the general nature of a pot, it can be of small size, big size, maybe thicker in the middle, or less thick in the middle, and so on, different shapes and sizes. But it will be still called a pot. A general definition is given. That general potness is called the genus or the jati of the pot. So that is considered eternal. So now the Vadi will try to refute. So he will say the jati may be eternal. The what you are saying about the jati, because it is all pervasive, it pervades all the pots. It is all pervasive, but the pot and the sound are non-eternal. For your case, it is different. My case is different. Or alternatively, he will say that then by your argument, that's anything that is grasped by the senses, not indriya graya, that is nitya, then do you mean the pot is also nitya? He can give another counter to counter argument. So now he has given an argument of his own, but he has hindered his own proposition by accepting the opponent's example. So his vyapti is hindered. So vyapti is what? Your example should include all the objects to which it can be applied to. So this vyapti will be hindered when you accept the other person's example. When you accept his example, then this is called this logical fallacy will have to be accepted. His nigrestan will come there. So his conclusion cannot be made there. So if he had replied in a different way that pot has an additional property of being existent after effort, which is not so with potness. So if you make a pot, you need effort, but potness is just a concept. Potness is just a concept you visualize in your mind. Then his proposition would stand. He has to say something that comes into manifestation with effort. That kind of pot is what we call, yes. So camera के गड़बड़ है. So that kind of pot which we produce with effort, that is non-eternal, that is not eternal. So you are postulating something totally different. It does not hinder my example. So that he should have said. But uh, he can also say, like, we need a pot, an actual pot, to conceptualize potness. Potness is not something that will come, that you can conceptualize without actually seeing a pot, right? Then you can say, yes, this pot is this size. There can be of other sizes, other shapes, and so on. So first you have to have a manufactured pot that will come after effort. So that is the way it could have been defined. But because he went and accepted the genus or the potness, and he accepted it being as eternal, so uh, his pratigya is hindered. So this is where we call it's pratigya hani. His pratigya has been hurt. Hani means hurt. So in this way, when you accept the pratidishtant or the example of the opponent, then your pratigya hani occurs. Then pratigya antaram, shifting the proposition, changing the proposition. You have given one pratigya, then you go on to another pratigya. That is the flaw here. So pratigyat arth pratishedhe, प्रतिज्ञात अर्थ प्रतिषेधे धर्म विकल्पात तत् अर्थ निषेध प्रतिज्ञांतरम. So प्रतिज्ञात अर्थ, whatever is the meaning of your pratigya, there is a certain meaning of the sentence structure. When you made a pratigya, it conveys a certain meaning. So pratigya, when that has been negated, pratishedhe. How? Dharma vikalpa, by examining its properties, his dharmas, his properties, by examining its property, then Tat arth nishedh pratigyantam. Then changing to a new proposition is called shifting the proposition. So when some pratigya has been made and that has been negated by examining its properties, then changing to a new proposition is called the shifting of the proposition. So like we can say, take in the previous case also, Vadi is saying sound is eternal, and he gives his drishtant and vyapti. And then Prativadi will say soundness, the jati soundness is eternal on account of both being perceived by sense organs. Soundness is also perceived by sense organs. But then the Vadi says that though both are perceived, but soundness is all pervasive and hence it is eternal, but sound is not eternal. Soundness is eternal, but sound is not eternal. So only the non-pervasive objects are eternal. He has brought up a new pratigya. He's changed his pratigya from sound is eternal to the non-pervasive sound is non-pervasive sound is non-eternal. The pervasive sound is eternal. So he has shifted the proposition. Pratigya antaram. Pratigya changed. Antar is to change something. So has shifted the pratigya from sound is eternal to non-pervasive sound is non-eternal, while pervasive sound is all pervasive sound is eternal. So this is shifting the proposition. It is a logical fallacy, and it is not considered the right way to prove anything. So it is not acceptable. Pratigya antaram. Then we go to the cause. Whenever there is a flaw in the cause, pratigya hetu. So pratigya hetvo virodha is pratigya virodha. So if there is a proposition pratigya and the cause is the hetu, there is a mutual conflict between them. They are mutually opposed to each other. Then this fallacy occurs, which is called pratigya virod or opposition, opposing the proposition. So you are saying one thing in your pratigya, but your example or your hetu, your cause is not giving the right uh, conclusion. It is not able to prove your proposition. हर बार हमारा reason सही नहीं होता. Well, all the times our reason is not correct. So here Vadi says guna or properties and dravya. They are distinct. Dravya is the substance. So substance and guna are distinct from each other, right? So we take say we take a ball and its color is red. So that ball and its color are distinct entities. Distinct entities. Guna and dravya are distinct from each other. So now if the person gives the hetu, because the substance is not perceived apart from the color or form, the dravya cannot be perceived apart from the color and form. Now he is not giving the right hetu. So fallacy is that if they are separate, then dravya should be perceived separately. They are not being perceived is not the right hetu. And if they are not separate, if they are not separate, then the original proposition is wrong. So then the original proposition should be that guna and dravya are same only. So that is not the right way to prove it. So if it cannot be, of course, no one will do such a silly hetu, but still, sometimes it happens. No, sometimes it's the hetu is not that accurate. The cause is not that accurate. So then we cannot accept that. So here, if you say that if they are not separate, then the original proposition is wrong. So both ways, your hetu is not doing your job, not doing the job. So if it cannot be perceived separately, then why make the proposition at all? So hetu is wrong. So what should be the actual argument? The actual argument should be that each guna can be perceived in multiple dravyams. So that means it's a separate entity. If the blueness is existing only in a ball, the blue ball, then you can say, but there is a blue bed sheet here. There is a blue sky there. So same guna is there in so many different objects. So that means it is there in different objects. So that means they are separate. That means they are separate. So that should be the right hetu. So the right hetu is not given, then you are doing a nigrasthan. You are doing a fallacy. Your conclusion is in the wrong place. Your conclusion nigraha. It is not being grasped rightly. It is not grasping. Your hetu is not grasping the pratigya. ठीक से पकड़ नहीं पाया. So that is the nigrasthan. So next one, pratigya sannyas. 5 to 5. So this is the next one. We are looking at paksh pratishedhe pratigyat arth apnayanam pratigya sannyas. So pratigya sannyas is giving up your pratigya. Sannyas is giving up your pratigya, right? So if the argument of the first side, paksh, Paksha is the argument for the first side. Pratishede. Pratishede means it is negated. So if the argument for the first side is negated, then pratigyat arth apnayanam. Then the if the meaning of the pratigya is analyzed, and then on analyzing that that argument is negated, then this what is that fallacy called? That fallacy called pratigya sannyas, giving up the pratigya. So what does sannyas meaning? Sannyas means giving up something. You move away from the world, or you move away from family. But in other sense, if you look at the meaning of the word, sannyas is samyak nyas. Samyak nyas means you become totally absorbed in something, right? So sannyas is not just giving up something, but to find something different or higher or better and stay involved in that to the exclusion of other things. एक चीज को छोड़ के दूसरी में जुड़ जाना एकदम मन लगा के, to be totally immersed in a certain kind of. So like if you are doing some study, so while you are studying, you are forgetting all the other things. You are not doing any other thing. You are not watching TV. So, nyas, samyak nyas. Samyak means total, and nyas means to enter into or absorb into or uh, completely be absorbed into something. Nyas. So that is how. So in like we do this nyasa when we do puja, it is the jalam, and we offer it. So there we are offering ourselves to the Lord. So we are offering, or we are allowing ourselves to get absorbed into the Lord. That is the nyasa. So in this, uh, sannyas means to the exclusion of other things, getting absorbed in something. So in a way, it is giving up other things, giving up all your other distractions, right? So pratigya is for you the thing that you should be absorbed in. You are giving up that pratigya. That means you are entering the wrong side. So paksha pratipaksh pratishede pratigyat arthapnayanam pratigya sannyas. If the argument for the first side of the paksha is negated, after analyzing the meaning, then that is called giving up the pratigya. That is the pratigya sannyas. So here we can take the previous example also, example of the third sutra. Uh, Also, the Vadi says sound is non-eternal. Opponent will say genus is eternal. He will say the general soundness is eternal. So if to this argument the Vadi backs down, he backs down and says, who said sound is non-eternal? I didn't say that. Some people do that. No, they will make a statement, then when disproved, and they will say, I didn't even make that statement. So that is called giving up the pratigya. So here he is denying his own proposition, and he will start on some other argument. So this giving up your pratigya is called pratigya sannyas. मैंने कब कहा? But when did I say this? So when opposed, then the person denies. So this sort of denial is denial of import of one's own proposition is called renouncing the proposition. So it is an occasion for rebuke. So now we are looking at the hetu antaram. So the hetu is given, but then we shift the hetu also. So avishesh ukte hetoho pratisiddhe vishesham icchata hetu antaram. So Avishesh is something that is common, common to all. Avishesh ukte, when we are talking about something Avishesh or something common, and we give a cause for that, hetoho, pratisiddhe vishesham. That thing negates the hetu that is applied to a special object, a singular object, right? So a collection of balls and the particular blue ball. So that in that way, can we apply our logic to all the balls or only to a particular blue ball? So that will avishesh ukte hetu pratisiddhe vishesham ichhata hetu antaram. That is called the shifting of the reason or hetu. So the shifting of the reason or hetu is a fallacy where a cause is applied to a common object or jati. Cause is applied to common object, but when it doesn't apply to a special object, then the cause is shifted. It does not apply to the special object. Cause is shifted as saying that it applies to the common objects only. The special object is different. I will give a different cause for that. I will change my cause. So that changing of cause is called hetu antaram. So in there, here also the example we give is Vadi will say sound is non-eternal like a pot because it is cognized by the senses. So the Prativadi will say, but potness or the genus of pot is also cognized by the senses. and it is eternal. So now the Vadi will say non-eternalness applies to common objects. Non-eternalness applies to the common objects, to the jati, but not to the genus. So here he has shifted the reason, but it won't be acceptable. You have shifted the reason, but it won't be acceptable. So he has to say genus is not a matter of perception. You cannot perceive the genus. Its eternalness lies in its acceptance of being existence. You have to just take the genus as pure existence, even when unmanifest or non-cognized by the senses. So genus can be in both states. It can also be cognized by the senses when it is available as a special object, but it can also be non-cognized when it is in the state of unmanifestation. So you cannot say that the genus is always cognized by the senses. So when the genus is being cognized by the senses, then obviously it is non-eternal. So that way we understand. So that is the correct cause. But this one, he has shifted. Hmm. So Vadi has started to say that non-eternalness applies to common objects, not to genus. So he will have to give a special uh, pratigya, special hetu, so that his hetu will change. So genus is not always cognized by senses, while pot always is. Or we can take another example. There is an example given in the Bhashyam for this uh, sutra. So there what is said is the Vadi says all objects having shape come from one prakriti or nature. From one prakriti or nature, just as mud is the cause of many vessels. So now the opponent will say, but he will take another material cause. So the first one has taken mud, he has taken something like gold. He says gold is also the cause of different set of products. So how can everything come from prakriti? Why can't there be different material causes? Yes. So here the Vadi will say all materials come from one basic material. All the materials are coming from one basic material, the one basic Prakriti, the unmanifest Prakriti that we know. So Prakriti or Avyakt is another name for Prakriti, is the nature in the unmanifest form from which all the objects of the world are manifest. So if you use that word, then it's different. So Vadi will say all materials come from one basic material and then become the source of their respective shapes. All materials come from one basic material and then they become the source of their respective shapes. So like we can say everything is formed of atoms, or we can go to even more basic, everything is made up of electrons, protons and neutrons. So the electron, proton and neutron is the basic source of everything, right? So here he has shifted his cause. The hetu has been changed. So adding anything to a hetu is a hetu antaram. Okay. So this is the hetu antaram fallacy. Then totally shifting the topic, huh? Arthantaram, totally shifting the topic. This is done by some of us when we are rebuked or scolded by our parents or teachers or senior or someone who we owe something. We change the topic to get away from it. So this is that arthantaram. So prakritat arthat pratisambadh artham, arthantaram. So prakritat arth, the natural meaning of something, moving away from the original pratigya or the prakritat arth or postulate and going on to define some other word, something else that is not even in the pratigya, or going on to define a word in the pratigya which is not necessary to be defined. Some people do this to show of their knowledge. So while they are discussing a certain topic, they will choose a certain word and then go on defining that word to reach and some other level. Even I may commit it sometimes, maybe, but yes, it happens. No, while we are doing something. So this is not the right way when debate is happening. I mean, in a pravachan it is okay, but in a debate this is not allowed. So moving away from the original pratigya or postulate and going on to define another word in the pratigya is called arthantaram, or shifting the topic, or non-relevancy is some going on to something not relevant. So like in the bhashyam for this, a very detailed example is given, but I'll just shorten it for you. So if the Vadi is saying, the first person is saying sound is eternal because it is intangible. It is intangible. So opponent will say intangible things may be non-eternal. So now he is trying to understand. So the person doesn't know how to refute this. So he will take some other word. He say in there the example given is this. So Vadi will say, look, the hetu is made up of the Sanskrit dhatu he with the suffix tu. So if you see the Sanskrit Unadi Kosh in 1.73, there are pratyaya. You add a word to the end to give a different meaning to that. So pratyaya is something you add at the end. So tu is a pratyaya. So hetu is made of he plus tu. And then he will go on to define what is the pratyaya. Then pratyaya from he will go on to the what are the different classes of grammar, in what are the different nouns, verbs, and all. And then he goes in totally different direction. He goes into the direction of grammar. And then so this is diverting the pratigya. This is called diverting the pratigya. Or you can use a simple example. You like you say like you someone borrowed a book from you. So you say, okay, I want my book back. So I'm going to school or I'm going to my work, and when you get time, you give it back to my house. My mom is there. You can give it back to her. So next day you ask, did you give it to my mom? So he will say, ah, yes, I left in the house, my house in the morning at I think 9:30, and then I was walking towards your house. And on the way, I saw this very cute dog. He was a Lhasa Apso or whatever. And there are so many varieties of dogs. And then he'll go on into all different descriptions of the kind of dogs and totally obfuscate the topic, and you will get angry. Come to the topic. Did you give the book or not? So that means you've forgotten to give the book. So this kind of confusing, this kind of mixing is done by people, no, when they want to evade something. So this is called the fallacy called arthantaram. You are discussing something about sound, and then you go on to the defining the words in the proposition, that is the hetu. You are going to break up of the word hetu and so on, looking at its grammatical import and so on. So that is called this arthantaram logical fallacy. And this is like when someone doesn't want to continue with the argument or is not finding the way to continue, he keeps on going on with some gibberish. So Varna Kram Nirdeshvat Nirarthakam. So the nirarthakam or the meaningless hetu or cause is one where we try to find meaning where none exists, like in a sequence of letters. So someone will start saying something gibberish about something that is not making sense. Someone will say ka kha ga are like pa pha ba because ta tha da are like ta tha da. This is the example given in the Passion. But if you just look at it in a different way, you can say that someone is talking about a topic that is something in one of the examples that we have seen here. Then instead of talking about that, he will start to talk about some other words that other person not will not understand, some other different foreign language, or just using the words in a random sequence. So uh, there was a movie, Amitabh Bachchan. I don't know if you watched it. And so in that there is a song. So this he doesn't know English very well. So just to impress, he just uses a random sequence of sentences. The coefficient of the linear is just a position by the hemoglobin of the atmospheric pressure in the country. So he's talking totally gibberish. You don't even, he also doesn't know the meaning. So sometimes, some children also do that. They have gone to school, they've learned a new language, maybe English or French or German or whatever, and then they are coming back to the home and they are telling their parents, I've learned this and this, speak in that language, and their parents are so impressed. Oh, wow, he's learned this. But whatever he's speaking, they don't know if it is right or wrong. Even the child also might not be speaking something correct. So that is called the nirarthakam. Just to impress someone, you use some different kind of language or some different kind of discussion to totally move away from the topic. So this is nirarthakam. Then the unintelligible, something that is not clear. So parishat prativadibhyam tri abhihitam pi avigyatartham. So when the speaker, prativadibhyam, when the speaker has said something thrice, Tri abhihitam. He said something thrice, and yet the audience doesn't understand it. Huh? So Parishat, that it is denied or not understood, that is called avigyat artham. That is the fallacy related to an unintelligible argument. Right. So sometimes we say something the other person has not heard it because they don't have the capacity to comprehend. That is a different fallacy. Yeah? That is another different fallacy. But there is a fallacy in which the person who is speaking is not able to convey something. So it might be due to different reasons. It might be due to the speaker. He's deliberately using, very tough and different words so that others will simply accept his argument just by being impressed by those tough words. Some people use very, very different kind of vocabulary. So you must have heard of Shashi Tharoor. He uses that kind of English. Even understanding some of those words will need a dictionary. And so that ignorance is masked by using tough words, or it can also be like you're speaking too low. Hmm. Uh, or not using the proper language. So, an expression of an argument in simple words is the requirement of an argument. You have to say it in simple words and it has to be intelligible. You can see on the TV also or in movie while watching a movie also, there also no sometimes there is a requirement that this has to be said. So tobacco smoking is injurious to health. So with that there is a long line of disclaimer that is supposed to be said by them. He said so fast, so like that, you won't even probably hear it. Or mutual funds. Mutual funds are subject to risk. Please do invest at your own risk. He will say it so quickly. I am not able to say it, but he'll say it so quickly. You probably won't understand it. But just to fulfill the legal requirement, they do that. So they do it, say it so quickly and so fast, so that even like here it is at three. Just for the sake of it. For the sake of saying it. Expecting that the person will not probably listen to it carefully or be aware of that. So that is called avigyatartham, where you speak in a manner where the argument is not conveyed properly or the emotion or the thought is not conveyed properly. That is called avigyatartham. 5 to 9. So now aparthakam. This is also something similar to the one we saw earlier. Nirarthakam, then aparthakam, similar. So Purva, Apar, Ayogat. Is Purva Apar, if you split, it will be Purva and Apar. Uh, Purva and Apar Ayogat, Apratisambat Artham, Apartham. So apartham is an incoherent argument. What is the fallacy there? Purva apar ayogat. What comes first in a sentence and what comes later in the sentence, that sequence is jumbled up. Prove upper ayogat. It is totally jumbled up. Aprati sambat artham. Then the meaning does not convey the proper uh, import that it should convey. The meaning is not conveyed in a proper way. So apartham or an incoherent argument is where the order of the words para and apara before and after is not proper, giving rise to gaps in the argument. That is a logical fallacy called incoherent argument. So someone says, if you go to the bridge, you can get an egg which you can eat. So if you jumble it, if you said, go, you shall, bridge, on, the egg, eat, you will, something like that, you jumble up the order of the words, it will not make sense. It will not be conveying. Maybe you are doing it deliberately or not. Or if you remember the Star Wars movies, there you have Yoda, the Jedi master, and then he will say, go, you shall not. So even that you can understand. He will say every sentence in a different syntactical order and not the regular one. But somehow you can maybe by the capacity of the human mind to unjumble something, you can understand. But it is not the right sentence, right? The sentence is wrong. So you will understand. So that is considered an incoherent argument. Apartham, it is not accepted in logical debates. Okay. And then the parts of the argument. So whatever argument we do, we know we have the five parts of the argument: pratigya, hetu, drishtant, Nigaman, and Sambandh. So all these five have to be there. So avyava viparyas vachanam aprapt kalam. If after of the five parts of an argument, the series is jumbled up. Aprapt kalam, it will be called an inopportune argument. The hetu can come before the pratigya, or the pratigya is coming at the last, or the even sometimes the the pratigya is said in such a way that the hetu appears like the pratigya. So that can also happen. So in this manner, if the proper order is not maintained, the argument cannot be considered valid. This is called aprapt kalam. So inopportune, the right time is not there, or the timing of the argument is not there. The order also is not there. At what time what should be said? It has not been said at the right time. So that is aprapt kalam. The five parts of an argument are not said in proper order. That is aprapt kalam. So these are simpler ones. You can look up here the example. Prakalam means not in order. Not in order. Okay. So here also the example is given in this English text also, like the normal one we'll use, the hill has fire. Whatever has smoke has fire as a kitchen. Because it has smoke is reason. The hill has fire is conclusion. The hill has smoke application. So here it is all mixed up, right? So pratigya, after pratigya, you should have hetu. Because the hill has fire, then you should have the hetu because it has reason. But because of this jumbling, the meaning of the argument is lost. The meaning of the argument is lost. So that is aprapt kalam. Then something is lacking in an argument. So that is the 12th sutra. So 5 to 12. I'm not taking too much time on these. These are very simple arguments. I hope it is clear so far. Anita George. Okay. Yes. Okay. So now,
Yes, yeah.
okay. Okay, George. So aprapt kalam, then 12th is heen anyatam en api avyavena nunam. So avyava is the parts of an argument. Heen anyatam. It lacks something. Heen. There is something lacking in the argument. That is called nunam. It is called the argument of deficiency, or something is missing. So if in an argument there is any part of the argument that is missing, so out of the five avyavas, any one of them is not given. A lot of times, no, people will give an argument, then the conclusion is not said. Then for the other person, the doubt remains, what are you trying to prove? It happens a lot of time, no? Sometimes someone is saying something and you ask, what are you trying to prove? And then he will give the nigaman, or the conclusion, and the sambandh. So in this way, whenever you give an argument, all the five parts should be complete. You cannot leave any part out, otherwise the argument will not be able to convey your meaning in the proper way. So heen anyatam enapi avyaven nyunam. So then the opposite of that will be what? Adhikam. So this is the next one. Okay, so hetu udaharan adhikam adhikam. So when a cause and example are given multiple times, or multiple causes are given, or multiple examples are given, then it is called the fallacy of excess, adhikam, fallacy of excess. So you are giving too much reason. So because you see, whenever you are proving something, you have to give one cause and one example. And if you are not finding it enough, अगर आपको लग रहा है वो पूरा नहीं है, if you are not finding enough, then you give another cause or you give another example. So what does that show? What does that show? That shows that the first hetu was not sufficient. है ना? And if you are giving two, then that means neither is the first sufficient nor is the second sufficient. Using any one of those, you cannot prove your thing. So if you are giving two, that means your hetu was not sufficient. You are giving two hetus. So either you need to combine both hetus into one, or you need to give only one which will be able to prove. If you have to give two, that means both are not insufficient to prove your argument on their own. So that means your hetu is not proper. So same thing can be applied to the drishtant also. If you are giving two drishtant, then the drishtant also, first drishtant was not sufficient. So, like in this text also is given here, uh, the hill has fire because it has smoke and because it has light. So, two reasons are given: because it has smoke, because it has light. Uh, and then two examples are given, like a kitchen and like a furnace. So, it means that one of them was not sufficient. That is why you have to introduce a second hetu or a second drishtang. So, if a second hetu or udharan adhikam, when hetu and udharan are given more than once, then that is called the fallacy of adhikam, or the fallacy of saying too much. You cannot say too much. You should always be concise in your arguments. Okay. Then this is one used a lot in Shastras, where it is not a fallacy, but where is this considered a fallacy? Let's look, we'll look. So this is Punarukti dosh. Punarukti is the defect of repetition. Repetition of an argument is considered a defect. So 5 to 14, शब्द अर्थयो हो पुनर्वचनम पुनरुक्तम, वो तो हो गया। अधिकम वाला कर लिया ना, फैलेसी ऑफ एक्सेस, जहां हम एक से ज्यादा हेतु या एक से ज्यादा उदाहरण देते हैं, where we give one. So now we are into the 14th one. Maybe the numbering is different in this text. Okay. So, so 14th is Shabdarthayoho Punarvachanam Punaruktam Anyatra Anuvadat. So repetition of the words of an argument, Punarvachanam, is a fault classified under Punarukti dosha, or fault of repetition. So of course the repetition of a word to emphasize something, it doesn't come under the fault. Huh? If you are saying something twice or thrice, then that means there is a Punarukti dosh. So why are you saying it again? Do you think we will not understand in the first time it was said? So that is considered a Punarukti dosh. But in general parlance also, it is allowed. Like you say to someone, come, 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 or you say, go, go, go. Yeah, so there that Punarukti is allowed because you are emphasizing something, right? Something similar also occurs in Shastra, but that is given in the next sutra. But in certain cases, it is allowed. But in most cases, where a full argument or a proper reason or something, if you are repeating, it is not advisable. It is not considered apt or proper. It is not considered apt or proper to repeat that. So that is called punarukti dosh, repetition of word, repetition of meaning, anything. So that is not considered a proper part of an argument. Then where is, so 5 to 15. So anuvade tu punaruktam shabd abhyasat arth vishesha uppatte. So in Shastra, where there is a repetition, where anuvade, whenever you are translating a Shastra and there is a punaruktam, so their repetition is not part of an argument, but to emphasize something. Shabd abhyasat, to emphasize something. Abhyas is you repeat something to get perfect in something. So that there the arth vishesh upapatte, it is giving you a special meaning. So like we saw in Kathopanishad class also, there is a mantra where the line is repeated twice, or lot of places where the same thing is said twice. So Shastra uses two kinds of techniques to emphasize something. Like if you notice whenever we'll study, one is the punarukti that I've said, repetition. Second is changing the way the sutra, way the mantra is said. So suddenly it is being said in Anushtup, then again it will go to Trishtup. So when it is in Trishtup, that means something special is going to be said. So usually it happens, no, whenever you are reading something and then you are going with the flow and you are not maybe paying attention, suddenly something changes. The way you are chanting that changes, and you stand up and take notice. Ab dhyan dete ho. Oh, so must be something important. So Shastra uses that tactic also a lot, where it will change the system of chanting, and so you will stand up and take notice. So in Gita also, if you look at the second chapter. in the second chapter where the najayate mrite va kadachit, that those are very important verses. So they are in Trishtu, longer. Before that, all the verses were in Anushtup. But suddenly, when that section comes, it goes into that because it is the most important part of that. So in this way, Shastra uses two techniques whereby the meter is changed or there is punarukti. So for Shastra, it is allowed where punarukti is using to emphasize something. Anuvade tu punaruktam, shabd abhyasat, to make you repeat or make you abhyas or make you practice that thing in more times. That is the purpose of that Shastra. So now 16.
Sir, one second.
Yes.
So in the Shastra it is allowed, but elsewhere it is not allowed, is what you say.
Elsewhere is also allowed where you are repeating for emphasis, like I said, no, go, go, come. So that way, in normal parlance also, whenever you are behaving something like Shastra, where you're repeating something for emphasis so that the person might not forget, that is okay. But in an argument where only once it is needed to be said, once is conveying enough the meaning. So for an argument, it is sufficient. But for whenever you are teaching something, then that punarukti is allowed. So here they have said that punarukti is a dosha, but where it is not a dosha, when it is being said for emphasis and when it is used in Shastra for showing the importance of something, so something that is very important. Okay.
Yeah, the example given is not a mistake. It's simply an emphasis.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So anuvade. So we 15th we have done, 16th we are going.
Sir, I have a doubt
Yeah.
then. Then Punaruktam is also repetition. That's an error. And
Mm-hmm.
here we are talking about errors here.
Mm-hmm.
And Punaruktam itself is repetition, it's an error. And then what's the difference in Anubhajanam?
Anubhashanam.
Yes, Ananubhajanam, sorry.
That we'll see here. I'm coming to that.
Oh, okay.
We have done only this one. No? We have done up till the 15th one. So 14th and 15th, we have seen Punarukti dosh. Uh, so Punarukti is given as a dosha. Then why, when it is not a dosha, that is given in 15th. So 16th now we are coming to where Punarvachanam and Ananubhashanam, this we are going into. So
So
5 to 6.
15th is not a dosha. Then why are they mentioning it in the list of doshas, sir?
What is not
14th
a
is
dosha?
a dosha. 14th is a dosha. Repetition is a dosha. But in
Yeah.
the 15th one, they're just telling you where it is right to emphasize. Then it's not a
Yeah.
dosha.
It is a dosha when you are using it in an argument. When you are using it in an argument, right? But when you are using it to emphasize something in a teaching, you are teaching something or you are instructing someone to do something, then it is not a dosha. That is what is being said here.
All right, all right.
Okay, so you in an argument you are saying wherever there is smoke, there is fire. You don't need to say it twice. It is sufficient when you say wherever there is smoke, there is fire. So that is punarukti. If you do, it will be considered dosha. But if it is in a shastra like it is said this you should do, and then again it is repeated. Yes, this should you should definitely do. So the second repetition means you should definitely and always do this. Understand? That is the difference. So the exceptional case for that is given in the 15th sutra, right? So now Punarvachanam. So 16th, 5 to 16. Arthat apannasya swashabden punarvachanam. So repetition here is also a fault when a word that has been mentioned directly is enunciated again by using the word applicable for itself. It is also applied when the word is in its double negative, like eternal and not non-eternal. So here also, there is something called word that is used in the positive, like you are using something eternal, and then in the next line you are using not non-eternal. Hmm. So if you are using that kind of word, arthat apannasya, repetition is there, but you are using a different kind of word. So in that, using a different kind of word is not considered right in an argument, because here what you are doing is you will confuse the other person. You will confuse the other person. So using a double negative is allowed only once in an argument, and that double negative has to be persisted with throughout the argument. But if you use the positive word in one place and use a double negative at the other place, it becomes confusing. It happens in lot of texts in Shastra also, where it happens. So it is not considered the proper way. So arthat apannasya swashabdena punarvachanam. This repetition is going. Something has been indicated earlier also. Now you are using the a different word, arthat apannasya, using a different word, but the meaning is the same. Then that is not advisable. It is advisable to keep the same word all through the argument, so that your argument is more coherent or easily intelligible. Otherwise, you might, sometimes just thinking about what the double negative means is confusing. So that is the what is being denied here. It is okay to use a double negative, but only when you are using it all through the argument. You can't use a positive and a double negative in the same sentence or in the same argument. So that is punarvachanam arthat apannasya, a different word to convey the same meaning. So ananubhashanam is now coming. You were reading this earlier, Anita, or you asked about it earlier also, no?
Oh no, sir, it's just from last week, no, week's notes. I had listed down all those errors.
Okay,
So
okay,
I think I mistook the word.
okay. Yes, some of these are like very, very similar. There is a very slight difference. So when we take the example, then we can understand. So vigyatasya parishada, 1 minute. विज्ञातस्य परिषदा त्रि अभिहितस्य अपि अप्रति उच्चारणम अननुभाषणम. So this is you saw the earlier one where there is a sentence has been said thrice, and then it was repeated, and still the person was not able to convey. I'll just go back if it's okay. This is 529. So prati parishad prativadibhyam tri abhitam. So here what is happening is the first person has said something that has been repeated thrice, and after repeating it thrice, other person has not understood. Here the fault is with the first person. Okay, the fault is with the first person. So he has conveyed in a irregular manner. So because it was not conveyed, the person in front not was not able to understand. So it is said in a very roundabout or jumbled up way, or using tough words or whatever. So here the fault lies with the first person. So now coming back to the 17th here. So here again, you can say the similar words are there. Vigyatasya parishada, tri abhihitasya api ananucharanam ananubhashanam. So ananubhashanam is bhashanam is to say something, to speak. So ananubhashanam, silence. Ananubhashanam is not speaking something. So here the fault is lying with the second person, ignorance. When the argument has been made by a person, Vigyatasya Parishada Trihabhitisya, and has been repeated three times also. Our argument has been made by the person and repeated three times. Abhitasya api aprati ucharanam ananubhashanam. Then the person in front or the prativadi is not able to reply. He has not understood the argument. Then the fault lies with the prativadi for not having the mental capacity to comprehend the argument. Other people are understanding this guy is standing up to oppose it, but then he has not even understood. He asks, "What did you say? Oh, please repeat." He'll repeat. "What did you say? Please repeat." Thrice after repetition, also, this person is not understanding. Then it is called the fallacy of silence. Ananubhashanam, the logical fallacy of silence. So here the opponent must concede. So even after three times you are not understanding the statement, that means your study is incomplete. You have not properly studied. So in this way, through ananubhashanam, you are or keeping silent at the time when you should be speaking, the disputant is ineligible to continue in the argument, right? So time is up for today. So I think we'll wind up, and I think we have covered good ground today. We have done 17, so that leaves us only with 8. So these will quickly finish, I think, in the next class. Okay, so wind up for today. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.